Joining us this morning is Dr. Tommy Etim Okon. He is, of course, the first deputy president of the Trade Union Congress. Good morning, Dr. Okon. Thanks for your time.
Good morning.
All right, without wasting time.
Good to see you.
Yes, great to see you too. Without wasting any time. Many people, have described the 615,000 naira demand by the NLC as daydreaming. They say it is unrealistic, and they stop wasting Nigerians' time, and ask us, or at least come up with a better figure. Tell us what your reaction would be to that, and is this maybe the NLC and TUC's way of getting the federal government to the negotiating table to at least get something close to it?
Well, I don't know what people said is inadequate, because I can assure you that when we come up with the 615,000 minimum wage, the tariff on electricity was still 66 naira per kilowatts. And all of a sudden, after we have come up with that, it jumps to 225, almost 300% increase. So for anybody to have said that is not realistic, I don't know. And again, you can see the first situation in the country. Even when we entered agreement with government on October 2nd, 2000.
Dr. Okay.
This have not come to the fore. And if you look at aggregate of this, you look at the variable we have used to arrive at that, taking cognizance of accommodation, transportation, education, and of course, even the food, you will find out that we have come to the barest minimum. And that is what we present. Let government also come up with their own. Then we... For anybody...
Still, having a slight challenge with the connection with Dr. Tommy Etim Okon. He's the first deputy president TUC. While we try to reestablish that connection, he, of course, is defending the 615,000 naira minimum wage demand by the NLC and the TUC. And like he said, when they made that demand, electricity was still being priced at 66 naira per kilowatt. Petrol, of course, was, still, something around 600 or less than 600 naira per liter. But now those things have changed. So maybe we should be looking at a million naira minimum wage at this point. Since electricity is now 225 naira per kilowatt, so it might have even increased. Dr. Okon, welcome back. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. So these are the issue, because we don't just make a proposal. We base it, on our due diligence. We've done the markets, analysis. We've seen the cost of living. There is no way you can get a room in, today for less than 200,000 naira a year. So if you look at that, a room, and you look at somebody with 5 children, staying in at least one room apartment or self-contained, you can look at that. Because you look at the cost of building material today, how much is cement? How much is rod? No landlord will give you a house for free. Government is not doing it free, as it used to be the case.
So just to jump in, the reason they call it unrealistic is not because the cost of living hasn't skyrocketed to the most insane figures that we've seen in Nigeria's history even. That's not the argument. The argument about it being unrealistic is because they realize, or people have seen, that the federal government is struggling to even pay 30,000 naira. States are taking loans upon loans to even pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. And now imagine them having to pay 100,000 or 615,000 naira minimum wage. That's the reason. And so what would your response be to those who say that they've not even been able to pay 30,000 naira? How can they pay 600,000?
My brother, the state government just paid them. The 30,000 we are talking about, it wasn't in this kind of economic situation. Don't forget, then first subsidy was still in full. Mr. President told us that that they have saved so much from removal of fuel subsidy, over $1 trillion a month. So if that happened, what are you telling us? And the state government, they are coming to Abuja to collect so much from the fact, and they are telling us that nobody will say that, because they don't understand their body language. And so you can see Edo state governor recently just moved from 30,000 to 70,000. That tells you that if the government want to pay, they pay. How many routine of aids do they have? Do they even look at how much they use from their security vote that they are now securing everything? We're not going to talk about that. But let us not be sentimental or emotional about it. Let us be realistic. If government really wants to give a living wage, a good minimum wage must come to the fore. Otherwise, you have opened a recipe for mass corruption and of course, industrial crisis.
Still looking at the affordability of 615,000 naira demanded by the labor union, how do you think that the private organizations will be able to fare with this? Because you know that would set the benchmark for how the salaries should be structured in the private sector. And if you look around, there are not a lot of people who are in these spaces that are even earning as much as 600,000 naira, talking of 615,000 naira. So how do you think that the private sector will be able to fare? Do you think that the private sector can match this minimum wage, can afford it?
As I speak to you, there are some private sector that paid more than that. Let me tell you, you see.
No, I agree with you that there are some. I'm looking at the majority.
Excuse me, the law establishing minimum wage also have exceptions. So there are exclusions. And when we come to that, we discuss that in detail. And I can tell you, I am a chairman of the subcommittee on exclusion, so I know what we are talking about. And we have engaged them. And we are getting to the same page. It's about negotiation. Let them also come up with what they have, and then we meet at the equilibrium.
So we had a guest on the show 2 weeks ago who did argue that 615,000 wasn't quite realistic. And then, we asked what a realistic figure would be, and the person said 90,000 naira. Would you agree with that figure?
He's entitled to his opinion, but that is not acceptable to us.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's just talk about the NLC and the TUC and, the support, that they currently enjoy across the country. Some would argue that they haven't been able to achieve much, with regards, the rights of workers and the labor force across the country. Some have even said that the NLC has gotten itself more involved in politics than than with, fighting for the average Nigerian. Do you think that the NLC today has the support of Nigerians across the country, and Nigerians will come out, in support or rally behind the NLC to make its demands clear to the federal government if need be?
Well, I'm not a spokesperson for NLC. As you rightly know,
yes,
I'm
you're with the Trade Union Congress,
president of TUC. Yes. But when it comes to organized labor, we believe that a people united can never be defeated. And anytime you see the TUC and NLC working together, we achieve what we want to achieve. But let me also say that NLC is also entitled to their decision and opinion, because they are also a center, organized body. So, it's not that we dictate what they do. They don't dictate to us what we do. But I know when it comes to national interest, we come together to fight the cause. And I can tell you, with the present leadership of TUC, Comrade Festus Osifo, coming together with NLC, when we have a cause that affects the national interest, there is nowhere that we cannot achieve that. Don't forget, even when we took a decision, we shut down the entire airport here. When Joe Ajaero was maltreated in Imo State, and the government and even the populace felt the impact. We are not dabbling into politics, but our focus is what we can put on the table for the workers and Nigerian masses in order to turn around the socio-economic situation.
Yeah, but the reason those questions are coming is because, of course, well, like you said, you're not necessarily speaking on behalf of the NLC, which I agree. But is there moments in the last, let's say, 5-6 years that you can point to that the NLC and the TUC have come together, Joe Ajaero and Festus Osifo, or even prior to Joe Ajaero? Is there moments, that you can point to that they have taken a stand and been able to fight for the Nigerian people and, won?
Yeah, let me just take you back couple of weeks back when government tried to renege on the memorandum of understanding we had the 2nd October last year with regard to payment of 35,000 naira wage award. We issued the ultimatum jointly, and it didn't take government 2 days to start the implementation of the 35,000 wage award. That shows you that if we are united in a cause, we achieve what we want. So it's not about looking at what we have achieved together. And if also we must note, the mood of the nation determines how we move. Because let's look at when Mr. President removed the fuel subsidy. If Labour has insisted then, a lot of people, what is happening today, the queue we are seeing today, people will have passed blame on us again and said, if we have allowed to remove the fuel subsidy, they wouldn't have been queued. These have surfaced even since 1994. During military era, the government have not had the way out of this kind of quagmire situation, because they need to redirect their policy and then let it be all inclusive to see. So it's not about us fighting. It's government doing the right thing and government involving us in most of the policy direction, because some of us are well informed, I can tell you. But when government decide to take a decision without involving us or embark on policy somersault, it is there and there they will now look at if the organized labor are united to. No, we are not such a people. We engage government strategically, not until we go on strike before we get things done. No, but I think that the only language government here is strike.
All right, what's the way forward now? So you've you've rejected, the Trade Union Congress has rejected the 35% increase, and you're asking still for 615,000 naira. So what's the way forward now?
Please, let me correct the impression.
Okay. We
have not rejected 35,000 salary increase. No, I want you to know that the 25 and 35% increase was a gap that was breached, because this gap have existed. That was why if you look at those 6 sectors, the release talk about, these have happened since the implementation of the last minimum wage. So the core civil service were not considered on that. Those companies, compost, and the paramilitary and so. So government in its wisdom have to bridge this gap. That will also give us a good pedestal to implement the new national minimum wage when it comes to form, so that no sector will be denied. The health sector benefited. Now the research sector is benefiting. The civil service are benefiting. The police are benefiting. The paramilitary and also the military. So I want to correct that impression. We don't reject it. You cannot reject what we have been looking for. But I believe that the problem we have is as a result of miscommunication. Okay. Because that has nothing to do with the minimum wage. The 35% and 25% has nothing to do with the minimum wage, please.
Thanks for clarifying that. And now, going forward with your 615,000 request, what I'm asking is, what are the next steps?
Well, the committee is still meeting. The subcommittee are already in the field. And I'm sure the next meeting, the report of the subcommittees will be turned in. And thereafter, we start to debate. We want to see what government is bringing. We have brought our own. Let government also bring their own. We look at that from that premise and then arrive at the acceptable minimum wage that, is a constitutional matter, and that is the way to go about it. And don't also forget the minimum wage expired the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
All right. Dr. Tommy Etimokon, the first Deputy President of the TUC, thank you very much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm glad I joined eventually.